Well, I'd like to introduce you now to Ivor Normand, and he is the chair of the Aberdeen Family History Society. And I think you've been involved with the society for quite a while now.
I have now, yes. I've been chairman for nearly a year. I think it was the pandemic that punted us into a new way of being. I actually live in Edinburgh, from where I can chair the Aberdeen and North East Scotland Family History Society just as easily as if I were in Aberdeen or Ulaanbaatar. I've been a member of this society for 30 years now. The society is 43 years old, and we can talk about the history of it in a minute. But my own involvement began in 1995 when I became, well, I'd already been attending the meetings of our Glasgow area group, and then I became involved in the organisation of that. We also set up an Edinburgh area group in 2009. Each of these groups has members of the Aberdeen Society who live in those local areas and can't necessarily reach Aberdeen too often. Mm-hmm. I've also been involved in editing a journal for nearly 20 years. I started out as a proofreader assistant for about 3 years, and then for 7 years I was the editor or the leader of the journal team. Then I took a wee break for 5 years, and for nearly 4 years now I've been back in that job as well. So I think I have 8 email addresses within our society for about 5 different functions.
Many hats on there. So what area does the society cover?
We cover the 4 historic counties of the northeast corner of Scotland, radiating out from Aberdeen. So there's Aberdeenshire, south of that is Kincardineshire, and then to the west of Aberdeenshire are Hampshire and Moray. And our neighbouring societies, I guess, to the south would be Tay Valley Family History Society, who cover up to the old county of Angus. And then to the west, the borderlands of Moray and Nairn Family History Society, and on into Highland Family History Society.
Excellent, very good. So can you tell us, I think you're going to tell us a little bit about the history of the society then?
Yes, as is perhaps well known in historians of societies, until 1977 there were no local area family history societies in Scotland. There was only the Scottish Genealogy Society based in Edinburgh. But then Donald White held public meetings in various places to gauge any interest, and there was huge interest. So the Glasgow and West Family History Society, Glasgow and West of Scotland, they began in 1977, and ours, Aberdeen and North East Scotland, was the second one in 1978. We had a public meeting in June 1978, and I think 75 members were co-founders when they all signed up. Since then, we have grown apace to the point where more than 23,000 people have joined the society all time. But people lapse and die, and for some bizarre reason decide that they've actually completed their family history. I don't quite understand that. But we have nearly 3,000 current members, and as you mentioned, they're all around the world. And if there's been any upside to this pandemic, it's that technology has brought us all a lot closer with the ability to tune into online meetings.
Yeah, no, it's definitely been a great thing from that point of view. So, and today I think people will be joining us from all over the world as well. I know you've got a large library as well, and over that time your members have undertaken a lot of projects as well. So what sort of resources and library references do you have?
Yes, we have a huge range of resources which have been developed over a great many years by largely the work of volunteers. Our basement library in our centre in King Street has lots of books, a lot of which are rare and possibly even one-offs. We have family histories submitted by members and even by non-members, people who have spent years and years doing traditional research when there was only traditional research that you could do. There's a resource of pedigree charts that members and non-members have sent in. These have been indexed by ancestral surname and by place names of birth, marriage and death, or baptism or burial, or just whatever could be found. That index is available online, but is kind of out of date, and one of our projects to resume is bringing it further up to date. But also we have the journals of many other family history societies. We have heraldic material. We have just a huge variety of things that people should come and see as soon as they're about. And in fact, you may have seen that our centre reopened for business this week.
Mm-hmm.
We have a booking system. Members and non-members alike are welcome. I think if you're a non-member, we do ask for a £5 charge to attend our centre. But it really is much more worthwhile just becoming a member.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. So obviously, it's great to be able to visit in person, but you've also got a lot of resources on your website. So we'll share the website now. So this is the website if you're not logged in. And we're going to show you, some of the things if you do log in as well. So it's anesfhs.org.uk, but that will be in the handout. I'll make sure that we link to that. In fact, we link at the end of the handout, we link to many family history societies across Scotland as well. So if you're researchers from somewhere else, have a little look at that at the back of the handout. So what have you got on your website then?
Well, yes, as you go across that top menu, this is the public website. As you see in the top right corner, login is available to current members, and there are more options under some of these menu headings than anybody in the world who's surfing the internet can actually find.
Okay. Well, shall we do that then? Shall we just log in? Okay, so here is the data bank. So what have we got in here?
The extras that have appeared since you logged in as a member are at the bottom. World War I Roll of Honour. This is a database developed by one of our long-term members, Anne Park, who has amassed details of more than 20,000 men and women who died in the First World War, or as a result of First World War injuries. If you search the database, she's created kind of index cards for everybody she can find with any connection to the northeast of Scotland.
Let's go
and
first.
she was always happy to receive updates or corrections. So just click on any one of these, Alexander Smiths or anybody else, and you'll see the sorts of information, including newspaper references.
Well, that's really helpful, isn't it? So this is an index then, not just to one specific record, but I suppose it's an index to the people and then sources that, so you could then take that information, and if you've got access to those newspapers online, go and look at the original as well. That's very useful, isn't it?
Yes, people are fairly familiar, I think, with the Commonwealth War Graves Commission, which may or may not have a decent amount of information on each casualty. Mm-hmm. That has been a source going into this, and I think Anne tries to feed back to the Commonwealth War Graves Commission any further material, and I believe they're always quite happy to receive further updates. Yes, you can get lost down many happy rabbit holes of information.
Excellent.
Another one that's popped up since you logged in, if you went down to memorial inscriptions, 4 lines down, the sidebar that comes up, there's 2 new ones there. There's members only for unpublished MIs. Bigger always helps, especially for eyesight like me.
I know, I'm just going to zoom in a little bit.
Open up that any burial ground and you'll see the list of burial grounds.
Okay, and so these are unpublished ones then?
Yes, in our basement, that's another of our good resources. In various states of completion or incompletion, these burial grounds are not deemed yet complete for publication. So they may have been only surveyed or part surveyed. They may have been fully surveyed, fully indexed, just waiting for a final check. One of the good things about this indexed unpublished for members only is that you get the full transcription online, whereas the index to all our very many published monumental inscription booklets just gives you a kind of index hit to tell you that the people you are probably looking for are probably in this particular graveyard. But we have now produced more than 100 separate MI monumental inscription booklets covering various graveyards around the northeast of Scotland. with many more still to go.
Yeah, and these are so useful. I mean, they're useful at any period, but particularly before 1855, when you don't have the corresponding death certificate. We all know what it's like to search for death before 1855. So you've got that index. Let's just have a look. So you've got your index to the MI books that are published. And then these are the ones that are unpublished. So if we go into the published ones, again, you can search.
Some of them much smaller burial grounds in an area like Upper D side, I think, have been grouped together in one booklet. But mostly it's one booklet per local kirkyard or cemetery, or sometimes two together in the one book.
So we've got here, then we've got burial ground, Aberdeen, and we've got stone 158. So if I do a search and I think, oh, that's it, that's the one that I'm looking for, we then go to publications, and then you can simply order the Aberdeen MI booklet.
It is the way to do it, yes.
So we've also got, so that's quite useful. So you've got, so those are in it's two sections then. So that's good to know. We've got the published ones and the unpublished ones. We've also got, I noticed here, births and baptisms, which again are going to be quite useful.
These are particular data sets that have been done by volunteers, usually quite a long time ago. Another thing we could talk about here on that data bank list, there's something that says poor relief. But when you click on that, it's only one small data set, index and transcription for a 8 or 9 or 10 year period for St. Nicholas Poorhouse. But what more people might be interested in is poor law indexes and poor law records. This is an area of some slight confusion. Our website does contain a poor law index for the northeast of Scotland, but it isn't available from the menu. Such poor law records as survive for northeast Scotland are held by Aberdeenshire Archives, part of Aberdeenshire Council in the city of Aberdeen. There was at one time talk about our society having access to the images of these in return for Records of Scotland having the use of indexes that our volunteers had prepared. Now, our society did send them copies of the indexes years ago, but no images have been forthcoming. And so in view of that, the poor law database, largely operational, remains in what you might call a late development state. This index did used to be linked from our website. It's been taken off the menu options, but it still exists. So in fact, you can go in via the Aberdeenshire Council website and you can find a link to it there. Maybe we can online demonstrate how that's done.
So from the Aberdeen City Council website, there is actually this link. So you can, but what we'll do is we'll put this link in the handout, so you won't have to search for it, and we can link to that. So you simply click and you get your index of the poor law records up. We'll look for good old James Smith again, and that's the results that appear. And we're given the dates and we're given the reference as well.
So this is an index compiled by volunteers in our society quite some time ago. And the idea eventually will be to link to images of those records. Once you've explored the index and identified who you think your ancestors or other persons of interest might be, you're then armed with information that you can take to the archives in Aberdeen, the City Council archives, or you can contact those archivists when they're fully operational again, and they might well be able to find images for you.
I think you've got some examples.
I asked around within our society, and one of our chaps, Gavin Bell, he's kindly sent some images relating to his great-great-grandmother. I shall try to screen share these in turn. This might be a wee bit clunky. He's sent me 4 images, and one of them isn't initially too helpful because that's how you see the original book, a very wide format thing, looking a bit like an 1855 birth, marriage, or death certificate, or say a 1911 census. But we can home in on parts of that, and he's homed in on 3 parts of it.
Yeah, here we go. Oh, that looks better, doesn't it?
Yes, he's homed in on this detail about his great-great-grandmother, and it says, her husband is a farm servant. He has deserted her. She received 30 shillings from him about the 22nd of September last, but he has given nothing for the support of his wife and family since. She appears to be destitute. Her husband's name is George Barclay, born in Foverin, supposed at present to be at Kirktown of St. Fergus. These places are over on the east coast of Aberdeenshire.
These are quite good because they're going to fill in, and this is why these records are so useful, because they fill in the story to the family tree. You might find somebody, they're not living together on the census, but you don't know why, and you don't know what's going on, or what exactly has happened. And that's why these records are just so useful. They might give you information about births, and deaths, but they're also going to tell you the story.
This is the same lady, Elizabeth White or Barclay. That's her maiden surname and her married name. Her residence was New Aberdour, the one in Aberdeenshire. Age 24 and admitted to the minutes of the parochial board in December 1857, authorised to receive 2 and 6 per week. She was born in Aberdour parish. Her religious denomination is Protestant, and her condition is married. She's not disabled. The reason for her, let's say, disablement, but the reason for her application for poor relief is children to attend to. And is she wholly or partially destitute? She's partially destitute at this point. Earnings, receives wages for outdoor work. Why is this parish responsible for her? The nature of the settlement is that she was born here. And it lists her 3 children. Jessie Ironside, who perhaps was born before the marriage to George Barclay, aged 8, Mary Barclay, aged 4, Violet Barclay, aged 1. And her husband has deserted her. His earnings are not known. Further down, we find later details added. 1858, her allowance was reduced from 2 shillings 16 to 2 shillings a week. And in 1871, the poor lady died, so she was removed from the home. Unusually, the inspector of the poor for Aberdour used the minute book of the parochial board to record his sundry payments to and on behalf of the paupers in his care. So, Gavin is highlighted here in a chronological list that the parish paid post for carriage of an amount of £3.15 shillings and 8pence from Fraserburgh from George Barclay. So this is when the errant husband did actually send some maintenance, and the post of it was paid a few pence in the penny post in the Victorian era. And then a week or so later, we paid Mr. Chalmers for soap to Elizabeth Barclay. It's believed she was operating laundry services to try and earn some money. And all these kinds of personal details can be found.
I mean, when you think of it, that was the first. She was admitted to the role in 1857, and we've got the list of those children and how old they are. We've also found out where she was born as well. So quite an interesting family picture that you're able to build up there. We'll make sure that we link to that index so that people can access it, and we'll also put on a link to the archive as well. So that people know where to go to get those records.
People do get very excited about the possibility of finding things, but it must always be borne in mind that what survives is quite patchy, and you just have to take pot luck.
So am I right in saying that for the city of Aberdeen, there's not as much survives?
I think that's so. Unfortunately, the city of Aberdeen doesn't have much survival, but if you go out of route, you could be lucky.
Yeah, and that's the great thing about an index. You can have a search and see what comes up. Okay, so we've got loads of records that you can search on the site, but let's go back to the site, because I think that you guys have been doing, as you mentioned, for a while. You've had these groups which are sort of I don't know how you describe them, like satellite groups for the society. Is that
There are local area groups. We're all members together. Nobody's more equal than anybody else. But because we have such a widespread membership. I mentioned that we'd started in 1978. By the mid-1980s, we already had a Murray Banff group of people meeting in Elgin a few times a year. Also around the same time in the mid-80s, a Glasgow group got going. Just depends who wants to coordinate meetings.
So on your events tab here, we can see that there's lots of, so you've got all of your events for the Family History Society. But one of the things that I noticed, which might be particularly interesting to some people who are watching, is when we go to these ones here, we've got the Brisbane group meetings. These are actually timed for the time of day where most people are going to be living. So we would have to get up or stay up very late at night to be able to join in with that particular meeting. So that's really useful, isn't it?
And we do. There was a Brisbane group meeting just the other day there, last weekend, Saturday morning their time in Brisbane and Friday night our time here in the UK. So there were some hardy Scottish people staying up to join in with our Queenslander fellow members.
Yeah. Oh, that's good, isn't it? And that's fantastic. And there's loads. So there's many of these. There we go, Southern Ontario as well.
In the past 2 years, we have set up the Brisbane group, the Melbourne group, and the Southern Ontario group. Southern Ontario haven't even got to meet in person yet because that was just before the pandemic struck last year. But thanks to the wonders of video conferencing technology, we've been able to hold regular meetings and get to see each other in the virtual flesh.
And I was looking, the other thing I noticed on your site as well is that you also do some research services as well. So we mentioned about that great centre that you have and all of the resources, but of course not all of us can visit in person. So are you able to pay for research to be done there? Yes,
if you're a member, you can ask for our research volunteers to do research on your behalf. If they have to go and incur expenses by buying certificates, then they'll just charge you expenses, but otherwise there is no charge for members. If you're a non-member, I think they would charge a nominal fee for their time. Yeah. In our journal, we do have a queries section. Mm-hmm. The journal comes out regularly 4 times a year. Uh-huh. The history of the journal is developed over the years. Society founded in 1978. The first newsletter, quite a plain-looking thing, in 1979. By 1984, they'd introduced colour cover, and then it went up from 2 issues a year to 3, round about 1984-85. Slight change of designs as they finally settled on something for the next few years. By about 86, it had gone to 4 issues a year. If I didn't already say that. In 2006, colour cover for the first time. And in 2014, we had just received our grant of arms. So we're Aid Job in Awa, which is North East Scots for always working away. This wonderful coat of arms crest was developed by the recently deceased artist Anthony Maxwell at the behest of Gordon Casely, who's one of our long-term members. And we're very grateful to Gordon for pushing this through. So we had a civic reception in Aberdeen Townhouse in late 2013, and now our branding encompasses this everywhere we can. On the backs of our journals, on the backs of our more recent publications, on every tab of the website. We don't have a lot of merchandise, but if we discern a demand for it, then we can probably get t-shirts and things in due course.
Excellent, very good. So yeah, so the journal again, I think I got mine. I think this week. I think I got an email. I haven't looked at it yet, but yeah, it's there. So you can have that. You can have a print edition, or you can also have a digital edition now as well, can't you?
That's correct. There's 2 levels of society membership. If you want to save a couple of quid, 7 quid in fact per year, you can opt for electronic membership only. Our society, being one of the first ones in Scotland, was also one of the co-founders of the Scottish Association of Family History Societies, SAFS. You in Scottish Indexes have just recently facilitated the postponed 2020, now rebadged the 2021 SAFS conference. Next year's, we know, will be hosted by Tay Valley, we hope in person. And in 2023, the Aberdeen and North East Scotland Society will be the hosts.
Oh, excellent. Oh, that'll be nice.
We seem to be on a 14-year cycle, because when I look back in the annals of history, we hosted it in 1995, we hosted it in 2009 during the year of the homecoming, and so in 2023 it's our turn again. I believe our society also introduced the family history fair alongside the SAPS conference, which has been taken up with enthusiasm by the hosts since then. And it is our intention to hire a venue in probably central Aberdeen, but we're casting our net quite widely, and to have a family history fair, as long as pandemics do not kibosh those ideas.
I hope by 2023 we'll, yeah. I know, and the family history fairs are great because not only is it, you can obviously, you've got the conference, but you can just go around and talk to people who have got different stalls, and yeah, it's a great, you don't get that with the virtual events. It's lovely to be able to go and talk to people and find out about their research, and just have that face-to-face conversation. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate that. We've learned a lot about the records, and thank you as well to all the volunteers over the years who have worked to index these, transcribe these records to help them, help us all to research our family history.